So, a few weeks ago, I put out a little poll to those of you that follow me on my social media pages, and I wanted to ask you all what you want to learn or know more about when it comes to real estate. Ultimately, if you are choosing to spend your time with me here and follow me, I want to provide something to you. I want this to be a hub for information and education and maybe a little bit of entertainment along the way. So that being said, I have Tim Evans here from TC Home Inspections, and we are going to really dive into caring for your home, an inspection, whether you are a first-time young home buyer or you've purchased multiple homes and you've been a homeowner for 30 years. I think that this is going to be very beneficial to anyone. So Tim, welcome.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks for having me in today.
So before we kind of get started into some of my questions, why don't you talk a little bit about your experience, how long you've been in the business, and tell people kind of what you know about inspections.
Great. Well, listen, I actually own two companies, TC Home Inspections and TC Radon Mitigation. And our company, we've been in business for 13 years, and we service from Petoskey down to Ludington, pretty much everything in between. I tell people we can pretty much inspect or do any service that you would need to buy or sell a home. We have a number of inspectors, so we're always out and about, usually 7 days a week, and we can do anything from septic evaluations to commercial, residential properties, lead-based paint testing, water testing, radon testing, the list goes on, but we pretty much do it all, and we really feel lucky to help people buy and sell properties.
Yeah, I love that. And kind of going off of that, and a reason why I specifically wanted you here today is from my own personal experience and my own testimony, really, from when I purchased my home. I was 23 at the time when I bought my first home, and like most first-time or young home buyers, this was everything that I had been saving for my whole life. I didn't get help from any family members or anything. This was all on my own, and I was extremely nervous. I had so much anxiety about buying my first home and getting an inspection. And I remember when I got mine back on my first home, I remember calling you, and I think we sat on the phone for maybe an hour, and you walked me through, I think, every single page of this inspection report and really gave me a lot of education on what everything meant. And something that I think is important that I didn't know before I bought my first home was that when you get an inspection back, you don't necessarily provide red light, green light, pass, fail. So can you talk a little bit about that? Why is it not as simple as pass, fail? And why is it important to really dive into the different factors that play into when you get that report back, maybe what you should be looking for, things of that nature, I guess.
That's a great question, and we've learned over the years that we inspect everything that we can, but we're not going to make a pass or fail situation evident to a client, and this is the reason why. Everybody has a different expectations about what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. Everyone has certain needs. Everyone has certain likes. So you can't put anybody in a bucket or a lot of people in the same bucket because everyone's different. Mm-hmm. In regards to that, what we do is we provide a very comprehensive evaluation. And just like you did, we encourage people to call us so we can review anything in there. In our reports, we normally put together a summary page. That's at the very beginning of the report. And that, I tell people, is the most important part of what we do, because we're going to put in there, Rebecca, anything that needs to be repaired, replaced, upgraded, any major component, that's where it's going to end up in the summary page. Now, the other thing we do so everyone understands, most clients aren't going to get into attic or a crawl space with us or a roof. They simply can't. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a lot of photographs so you can see and your clients can see what exactly we're inspecting, what we're looking for. And if anything is deficient, we're going to have a picture of it with a caption showing, hey, this is what we observed. This is what you should take action on.
Right. And I'm sure, too, in terms of no pass, fail, it's because a lot of it could potentially be subjective in terms of the condition of some things. Sure, some things might not be working fully, but some people might see something as more of a crisis than other people. when it comes to buying a home. Some people might say, I'm willing to put in the work on some of these minor repairs. And I'm sure you've seen someone in the past who it was maybe something fairly small in an inspection, but that caused them to say, whoa, that's enough for me. I'm stepping away.
Well, a lot of times it has to do with the stage of life somebody comes to us at.
Yeah.
You just pointed out you were a first-time home buyer a while back. There were probably things in the home that we found that needed to be repaired just because of your budget. This is what your budget allows.
Absolutely.
You get to an older person, maybe somebody my age, maybe they're getting close to retirement, and they're thinking, I want a home that's in perfect condition.
Absolutely.
I don't want to have to work on that home. I want to make sure the HVAC system, the plumbing, the electrical, all the interior components are in good, newer condition so that I can just enjoy my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being at both phases in my life. So again, that goes back to people have different expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking about when somebody gets an inspection report back, what are some of the things that they should be really looking out for or paying close attention to? In your opinion, what are those things?
So I tell people that when you think of any property, whether it be a residential or commercial property, there are a few really important items you really want to pay attention to. And they really fall into 4 areas. The first one would be the foundation. Is that foundation sound? Is it straight? Are there cracks in it? Is it in good condition? Is there water in that foundational areas? Those are really important things. And if we find things like that, they're going to be in the summary page. The next item that's really important is the roof, because roofs leak over time, and they can cause problems. And you'll see as I go through a lot of this interview, I always go back to water, because water impacts the home more than anything in our environment. If you have a dry home, you have a pretty good home. If you have a wet home, you have a home you have to work on, okay? And then the other thing would be the mechanicals. Those are an important component. And then the final one would be the waste system. So those are the big 4 buckets, if you will, things that tend to cost the most money to repair for most homes.
Right.
And those are the things you really want to focus on, not only as an inspector, but as a buyer as well.
Mm-hmm. And when you were just speaking about water, immediately my brain was also thinking about the way that northern Michigan homes specifically are so much different than any other home. I mean, you talk about water, so, homes in Florida, they have, when it comes to water, it's different than in northern Michigan, the type of water, snow, things that we have to deal with. So in your opinion, how does homes in northern Michigan kind of differ in terms of what we need to be looking out for so that we are, especially fighting the elements in the snow? What are important things for a northern Michigan home?
Well, some of these sound really simple. You and I have both grown up in this area. We've lived here most of our lives. So the main thing to know, and I'll go back to water. If you think about a foundation and how water can impact that foundation, because we live in an area where we have a strong change of seasons, temperature swings. If you look at a foundation and you think about what can change that foundation over time, it's usually water, and it's the freezing, contracting, expanding of water that can put hydrostatic pressure and push on that foundation wall and cause problems. That's really important. If you think about water, think about the drainage around the exterior of the home. You always want to think of a home with a sloping soil away from the foundation walls. That's really key. Really, any time of the year, if you have water intrusion in a basement, 9 times out of 10, you don't have a good gutter system and you don't have good water being pushed away from that foundation wall. So those are really important. The other thing in regards to water that people overlook sometimes too is how water can impact the inside of a home. So if you have a roof leak and it continues to happen for an extended period of time, water can attract things like rodents. It can attract carpenter ants, termites, all different things can be impacted by water. So water, again, is really the main thing you want to look at when you're buying a property.
Yeah. So I think also, as we're talking, a lot of this we're talking about potentially older homes. And I know just from personal experience showing homes, I've been in some newer homes built within the last 4 years and even homes built in the last year. And I think that some people might believe that with a new build or newer build, they might not need an inspection or might not need to pay as close attention to an inspection. And I know from what I've seen that is not the case, not always the case. So kind of switching gears and thinking about newer homes, What are your opinions on getting that inspection, and how often do you see in newer builds that there, in fact, are some problems happening?
Well, I'm obviously biased. This is what we do for a living. However, I can tell you that we do see problems with newer homes too. And it's usually not a significant problem, but we have seen situations where things just simply don't come together during the building process.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about how most homes are built, you have a general contractor, and then you have a lot of different specialists that he subs out to or she subs out to in the area of HVAC, plumbing, electrical, all the insulation, all these things have to come together to complete a home. And I'll have to tell you a story. This happened right in Traverse City. Oh, this was a couple years ago, I believe. But it was a really nice subdivision, a new home. In the dead of winter, we were asked to inspect it. And there was an older couple living there, and our inspection team walked in the home. They were very nice people, and we noticed right away that something was off. And they were in their chairs with big blankets on, and they acted really cold. And then my inspectors realized right away the home was cold. And so when we got up in the attic, there was absolutely no insulation in the attic space.
Oof.
And they had a brand new home. And what had happened is the people just didn't communicate, the contractors, the subs didn't communicate properly, and someone dropped the ball and they didn't insulate the attic. So this entire brand new home had no insulation in the attic. Of course, everyone was shocked, and it was taken care of very quickly. But those are the kind of things we can see in a new home. So to summarize, it's really things that can happen in a new home. Things just aren't put together properly. They've just dropped the ball somewhere, and then we're going to come in and just make sure everything's put together properly in most cases.
Gotcha. Okay. So also going back to one of the first things that you said that I have here in my notes that I want to touch on, because especially for young first-time home buyers, which is a lot of the clients that I do work with, you mentioned radon mitigation services. So explain what radon is. Why would I not want radon in my house? I don't know what it is. What kind of problems is it causing? What is mitigation? How does that work? Kind of explain all the things we need to know about radon.
So radon is a carcinogen, and we have to follow EPA guidelines that it's an inspection company, and the EPA states a certain range of safe levels for radon gas in a home. Now, radon comes about from the soil, and it comes from uranium being broken down over millions of years. A home acts like a vacuum cleaner when radon comes in. Basically, there's a higher pressure underneath the home, and if you think back to your chemistry or science classes, you'll hear this phrase used: high pressure to low pressure. So when you have an elevated radon level, what's happening is you have elevated pressure underneath your home sucks it in, it's going to an area of lower pressure, which is usually the lowest livable area of your home, and then our radon monitors will pick that up. And according to the EPA, you have to have a radon level of 4 picocuries, or you should have less than 4 picocuries of radon in your home to be considered safe by the EPA. Anything 4 or higher, they recommend to be mitigated. Now, in your second question, as far as what does the mitigation process look like? Well, our company called TC Radon Mitigation, we can take care of that. So what I usually tell people is you should have your home tested for radon when you buy or sell. That's what the EPA says. If you're concerned about carcinogens in your life, and these are cancerous materials that actually cause lung cancer in the case of radon, you should get your home tested. So what we do is we test the homes. It's really the client's choice. In the state of Michigan where we live, there's no state or local standards that says you have to get your home tested for radon, but what we do is we offer the service. Mm-hmm. And many people, we've learned over the years, when people come from other areas where radon is it's more of an issue, so to speak, it's more commonly found, they demand we do a radon test. And more people from our area are starting to follow suit. They're doing that now too. So basically, all we do is we install a mitigation system, which is nothing more than a series of PVC pipes that actually go through the concrete pad, and it basically just sucks the radon gas out from underneath your home to the outside where it dissipates. So it's really a simple process. It takes about 4 hours to do. And knock on wood when I say this, but we've never found a home that with elevated radon that we couldn't mitigate to a safe range. So it's a pretty easy process to do. Takes us a little bit of time up front, but I tell people, even in the worst scenario, we do radon testing in your home. We find it elevated. We can take care of it.
Gotcha. As you're explaining this, I'm totally getting the Bill Nye energy and education. It's like the Bill Nye of home inspections and real estate. I love it. The education is really crucial. Now, for radon in northern Michigan, is that different? Is it different for us here? Are we more likely to have it?
Actually, we're lucky. It's only found about, and this is anecdotal, it's not scientific, but we've done thousands of radon tests. What we find is 1 out of every 6 homes that we test to have elevated radon. Now, if you go to southern Michigan, for example, one of the highest counties in Washtenaw County, where University of Michigan is, almost you can go in that town and you'll see hundreds of radon mitigation systems installed. And their incidence is like twice what ours is. So it really depends on the soil conditions where your home is located. For example, people from out west, Colorado, they have a huge problem with radon gas.
Wow.
So there are different areas of the country that have more problems than others. Florida, for example, you hardly find much elevated radon in that state, but it really varies where you live. And in regards to the local environment where you and I live, a lot of people will call our office and they'll say, well, what's the incident in radon in this subdivision or this area? And I'm very cautious because we don't want to just say that we don't find it very often, because the minute we say that, it will pop its ugly head.
Yep.
So you can't smell it and you can't taste it. So I just say to people, you should get it tested if you're concerned. We can do that and take care of it for you.
Absolutely. Rather be safe than sorry, especially
Right.
when it comes to something that serious. So again, kind of talking about northern Michigan homes, we are in November. We're moving into the winter season. Can you talk about a few things that homeowners should be doing seasonally to care for their home?
Absolutely. One of the main things is I drive in town today and I look up at the roofs, and I do that because I'm a home inspector. But if you look at roofs, think about leaves and how they can affect drainage off a roof. Think about your gutters. You want to either hire somebody to get, if you're an able person, to get up there, clean those gutters. Even if you have gutter helmets or some kind of gutter guard, leaves can impact that and prevent good drainage. And the other thing is you want to have extensions at the bottom of your gutter to kick the water away from your home if you're on a basement. So those are just really important things that everybody can do. But these kind of things really don't take much time. You just have to be vigilant and look at your roof and see if it's clean. You want a nice, clean roof. And this is a good time of year, too, to look for shingles that have lifted. Look at a roof. All your shingles should be laying flat. If you have a metal roof, all your fasteners should be secured to the base of that metal roof. So those are the kind of things you should do on a regular basis, 2 or 3 times a year, to maintain your home in good condition, so you're avoiding some water leaks or water problems.
Yeah, when you were talking about cleaning the gutters, that just brought back this memory from, I think it was last fall. My boyfriend cleaned out the gutters at my house for me, and he doesn't think that they had ever been cleaned out. And let me just say, if you've never seen or smelt what will come out of gutters, if you haven't cleaned them in a while, be prepared.
I've seen forests growing out of gutters.
Yeah. He actually said that. He said there was things growing.
Sure,
So, yeah, absolutely crucial. So, we're talking a lot about buyers buying a home, getting an inspection. Can you talk a little bit about somebody who is maybe preparing to sell their home in the next year? I know that us realtors always have things that they can do to get their home ready to sell, presentation ready. But from an inspector point of view, what are some things that sellers could do to their home to really put their best foot forward if they're about to list it?
Well, a couple things. The one thing that comes to mind is, and we do a lot of these, a lot of realtors will call on behalf of their clients, or they'll have their clients give us a call, and we offer what's called a pre-listing or pre-sale inspection. And it's not for everybody, but for the people that have the funds and they want to spend $300 or $400 and having us come out to look at a property, what we'll do is we'll put a list of things together that they might want to have upgraded or repaired. And so what I advise people to do once we do one of these, we'll evaluate the whole entire house just like we normally would. Then we advise the homeowner, in this case, because we're not working for the buyer, we're working for the seller at this point. Take our inspection report, print it out, put it on your kitchen table or your island. If we did recommend any repairs to be done on your home, have them done by a qualified contractor, attach those receipts to the inspection report. And what that does is that shows a prospective buyer that you're showing a good faith offering, that you are someone that takes care of your home, you had it professionally evaluated, and this is proof of that. And a lot of times when that is done, it really eliminates the need for another inspection to be formed by the buyer, because they both have a copy of it. It's really, I have a lot of realtors that are doing this now, because the impetus behind it originally was to, and this is in fact what it's done. It eliminates a lot of the give and take from the buyer to the seller.
Absolutely.
So let's say, for example, the majority of the time a buyer will have an inspection, we'll find some things that need to be taken care of, and then there's going to be give and take. Well, when you have a pre-listing inspection for the seller, it just eliminates that.
Yeah.
So
and I can speak from experience too. From the buy side, if these steps have already been taken by the sellers, it puts a lot more trust in the sellers, because the buyer is looking at them like, okay, they definitely care for this home, and they are motivated, they're serious. Even if I've seen something as just fixing some of the outlets that might not be working properly in the kitchen. They're going to make those repairs. Small things that really puts your home, in my opinion, above the rest, and it makes it much more attractive for buyers. So just those small steps can really make a difference when it comes to selling your home.
I agree. It makes a big difference. And again, it's not for everybody, but if you make the offering to your client, and this is just my recommendation to a lot of my realtor colleagues, just offer this service. And a lot of people don't even know it's available, and it attracts them because they take care of their home.
Absolutely. So another question that I actually had directly come from somebody on my Instagram was, is there major differences when it comes to an inspection and caring for your home? Are there differences between modular, manufactured, stick-built homes? What are the differences? What should people know about those kinds of different homes and caring for them?
Well, there's a lot of information that you need to know when you buy or sell a manufactured or modular home. There's confusion between what is a modular home and what is a manufactured home.
Right.
So if you think about it like this, a modular home is, generally speaking, a higher quality product. It's a higher quality home. So a modular is built to state and local standards. A manufactured home is built to federal standards. A lot of times people refer to a manufactured home as a HUD home. And that's a very common acronym that people will use to describe them. When you are buying a modular home, it's just like any other home. It's stick-built. There's no difference. You can buy a multi-million-dollar modular home. All that means it's built inside a factory, high-quality control standards. It's just as good as any other home. In contrast, a manufactured home, a lot of times when there is a mortgage being needed for that purchase, there's some additional testing that needs to be done.
Yes.
And we can help with that in that regard too, but we inspect both all the time. But in a manufactured home, a lot of times the banks or the underwriters will require what's called a foundation inspection. Some people call it an engineering foundation inspection. What we have to do basically is any addition to that property, it cannot rely on the manufactured home foundation for support. It must be a standalone addition. So you think about decks, porches, they can't be resting on the home. They have to be standalone. Mm-hmm. The other thing we have to prove is how is that manufactured home secured down? So there's a couple things we look for. It can be cemented into the I-beams on a footing. That's okay. Or it must be, you must have hurricane straps on the corners, cementing or holding that home down. So those are the things we have to be able to prove in order to have it HUD certified. And then, of course, our engineer has to approve everything. So we can do both. But to answer your question specifically, if someone's looking at comparing the two products, I always tell people a modular home usually is a higher quality home than a manufactured home.
Yeah, and you bring up a lot of good points that also lead to, kind of sitting down with you today. It really all leads down to building a really good team of people that you can trust and that are very informative and educational when it comes to buying your home. And this kind of ties into having a good lender as well. Knowing the different requirements, there's so many different loan products out there now. that have different requirements and need different certifications and passing certain inspections and appraisals. So that's another really good thing to bring up, that you want to work with somebody who knows all of those things and can walk you through what those are, and what's needed to get you into a home.
And Rebecca, there's one other thing I should mention. When a client calls our office and they want either a modular or a manufactured home, I ask a lot of questions so I can help them. But when they decide that they want a manufactured home, it's very important that they work closely, to your point, with their mortgage officer. And here's the reason why. Every bank is different. Some banks will require a special foundation inspection. Other ones will not. We have a number on the schedule this week. And for example, one bank did not require the foundation inspection to be performed, and the other ones did. So we always tell the realtor colleagues of ours, our clients that we work for, work with your banker very closely and find out exactly. Get a list of everything that they require in order for you to get your mortgage. We'll do exactly what you need.
Yeah, and on the other hand of that as well, even if it's not required and you want something tested for your peace of mind, really important. You have the liberty to do that, and you should feel comfortable asking for that and doing that, so you feel comfortable and confident when you're making a move, whether it's your first move or your 10th move. Absolutely. So I guess kind of moving into my last question is, what can you tell us about the craziest home inspection story that you have? Because I know at this point you have had to be in thousands of homes at this point. So what is like one or two of the most insane stories that you can share?
Well, I think this kind of dovetails back into what we were talking about earlier, as far as every client has different expectations. Everyone has different needs and wants when they buy something. So one thing that comes to mind is there was a home on a lake in northern Michigan that we inspected a few years back. And it was a beautiful property. It was gorgeous. It would be like in a parade magazine. It was just a gorgeous home. And our clients came to the home. And you walked in the door, and everyone that I know would say, this is a home that I would love to live in. It's a beautiful property. So as we were going through the home with the husband and wife, it was very meticulously taken care of. It was spotless. It wasn't even a very old home. We were working in the HVAC area, and this home, I think, had 2 or 3 different gas forced air furnaces. So it was a good-sized home. And as we were going through our inspection, our inspectors pulled out the furnace filters, and they were very, very dirty. And you could see animal dander. You could see they just had not been taken care of in a long, long time. And so as soon as our clients saw those furnace filters, they actually walked from they stopped the inspection, and we were like stunned, and we couldn't understand why. And they said to us, if the people that own this home, if they take care of the rest of the home like they do their furnaces, what aspects of this home could you guys as inspectors not see? And it kind of freaked them out.
Wow.
And so that's an extreme case that hardly ever happens, but that kind of illustrates the importance of really cleaning the home, making sure it's knowing your market, knowing who's going to look at that home, because certain people have certain interests that a lot of people might not even think about. And then in contrast, we would do an inspection maybe that day or the next day for somebody else, and we would find a roof that's leaking or a furnace that might need to be replaced, and that client would say, that's perfect. That's exactly what I needed to know. I love this home. This is where I want to live. Now I know what to fix.
Yeah.
So everyone's different.
Yeah. That story touches on, I think, all the different things that we just went over. I mean, you're talking the subjective side of, in what condition a home is in. And, in terms of a seller getting ready to sell their home, something as small as changing your furnace filter can change the trajectory of a deal. Caring for the home, and that ultimately it's up to what you can handle. And we talked about that right at the beginning. First-time home buyers, in terms of their budget, they're more likely to be taking on a home that might need some more work, as, on the contrast of somebody who's looking for their forever home that might not want to deal with any of that. It's ultimately up to you. And I think that the most important thing is that you have a team and you have people surrounding you that you can go to for information, education, so you feel confident through the entire process. So,
On that topic too, I think it's important, and we try to help realtors and buyers and sellers as much as we can. One of the most important questions we can ask when people call us is, do you have any concerns about this home? Is there anything about this property you'd like us to know before we evaluate it? And the reason that's so crucial is if they mention a few things, there's usually more involved with that. Maybe it's something they've experienced in a previous property they just don't want to live through again. And 9 times out of 10, they're not big issues, but if we don't address in a lot of detail their concerns, they're going to feel like they're a little apprehensive about this purchase. But if we address it right up front, we tell them that, hey, we checked out the furnace like you wanted us to because you had an issue in another home. The furnace is awesome. It's working great. It's brand new. It's working great. No problems at all. But we have to ask those kind of questions because people just sometimes don't think about it. And if we ask those questions, we address it, it really helps.
absolutely. And I love that. Again, that's why I really do love working with you and your team. I think everybody does such a good job. The customer service, right to that initial phone call, all the way to, even if it's past, months past the inspection, you're now living in your home, you can always call Tim and his team. They're always there as a resource and help. And that's what I really love about working with them.
Absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely.
Any other final thoughts, things that you feel that we didn't touch on, things that we missed?
No, those are really the big things. And I think it's important. One of your important questions that you asked me are, what are the big things that you look for? And those are the kind of things that, like foundation, roof, mechanicals, and waste system, I repeat that on a daily basis to people that call, and I know my admin does as well, just because they are the most important. So whether it be spring, summer, winter, or fall, those are kind of things that you can look at in any home that would really impact your purchase and how much things would cost to have repaired. So that's just really a key thing when you do a home inspection.
Lovely. Tim, thank you so much for being here, for providing some really great education for any of my clients, past or present and future. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much, Rebecca. Thank you.